In the vast silence of Siberia, where winter reigns for most of the year, and the earth remains locked beneath permafrost, time itself seems hesitant to move. It was here, beneath layers of ice and soil untouched for over 2,000 years, that archaeologists uncovered one of history's most haunting discoveries: the Siberian Ice Maidens. Preserved not by human intention, but by nature's cruel perfection, these women emerged from frozen tombs, as if death had merely paused them. The first discovery stunned the academic world. Bodies lay wrapped in furs, their skin intact, facial features still visible, hair braided carefully, tattoos sharply etched as though inked yesterday. These were not ordinary burials. They were elite, ceremonial, and deliberate. The Ice Maidens belonged to the Pazyryk culture, a nomadic Scythian people who thrived between the 6th and 3rd centuries BCE in the Altai Mountains. Unlike civilizations that built cities or temples, the Pazyryk left behind something far more intimate: their dead. Their burial mounds, called kurgans, were sealed chambers of wood and stone. When looters broke into these tombs long ago, melting snow seeped inside, refroze, and inadvertently created natural ice vaults. This freezing preserved organic material in astonishing detail: skin, organs, clothing, even stomach contents. But what made the Ice Maidens extraordinary was not preservation alone. It was who they were. These women were buried with ceremonial objects: sacrifice horses, mirrors, cannabis containers, and elaborate headdresses. Their graves rivaled those of powerful male warriors. In cultures where women were often erased from history, these tombs suggested something radical. Women held power, ritual, political, or spiritual. The most famous among them, often called the Princess of Ukok, lay peacefully with hands folded, her body adorned with vivid tattoos of mythical beasts: griffins, deer, and horned creatures twisting across her shoulders and arms. These were not decorations. They were symbols of status, belief, and possibly magic. As her frozen body thawed in the modern world, she ignited fierce controversy. Local Altai people believed disturbing her tomb would unleash disaster. Earthquakes, floods, and political unrest followed her removal, reinforcing ancient warnings whispered across generations. The Ice Maidens forced scholars to rethink ancient gender roles, nomadic societies, and the nature of power itself. Were these women priestesses, shamans, queens, or something more complex? Guardians of sacred knowledge buried deliberately beneath the ice? The Siberian Ice Maidens were not silent relics. They were messages, frozen warnings from a civilization that understood death, power, and memory in ways we are only beginning to grasp. And as the ice gives up its secrets, one question remains: were they meant to be found at all? To understand the Ice Maidens, one must first understand the people who buried them. The Pazyryk culture did not build cities or carve monuments. They lived on horseback, moving across vast grasslands where survival demanded discipline, unity, and spiritual awareness. Their world was one of motion, but their beliefs about death were deeply rooted. The Pazyryk were master horsemen. Horses were not merely transportation. They were sacred companions. In burial sites, archaeologists found up to 14 horses sacrificed alongside a single individual, each adorned with ceremonial masks transforming them into mythic beasts. Death, to the Pazyryk, was a journey, and the dead did not travel alone. Their society was highly stratified. Clothing, weaponry, and burial goods revealed status immediately. And astonishingly, women appeared repeatedly among the elite. The Ice Maidens were buried with the same honors as male leaders, sometimes more. Textiles recovered from the tombs were masterpieces. Persian carpets, Chinese silks, and intricate felt designs suggested extensive trade networks spanning thousands of miles. The Pazyryk were not isolated barbarians. They were global participants in the ancient world. Their beliefs centered on transformation. Animals, humans, and spirits flowed between realms. Tattoos found on the Ice Maidens depict creatures mid-morph, part deer, part bird, part predator. These images may have served as spiritual armor, guiding the soul through the afterlife. Most striking was the role of women in ritual life. Grave goods included mirrors, wooden altars, and herbal containers. Traces of cannabis and opium suggest ceremonial trance practices. Some Ice Maidens bore skeletal abnormalities consistent with long-term ritual dancing or shamanic exertion. Unlike many ancient societies, power among the Pazyryk was not strictly male. Women could command respect, ritual authority, and perhaps political influence. The Ice Maidens were not wives buried beside men. They were buried alone, commanding entire tombs. This challenges long-held assumptions about ancient nomadic cultures. Rather than primitive or patriarchal, the Pazyryk appear fluid, adaptive, and spiritually sophisticated. The frozen graves preserved not just bodies, but a worldview where women were vessels of continuity between worlds. And buried beneath the ice was evidence that ancient power wore many faces, some of them unmistakably female. In 1993, Russian archaeologists uncovered a burial on the Ukok Plateau that will become one of the most debated archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. Inside a timber-lined tomb lay a young woman, perfectly preserved in ice, her body wrapped in silk, fur, and felt. She would become known as the Princess of Ukok. She was approximately 25 years old at death. Her hair was braided, her nails intact, her skin pale but recognizable. But it was her tattoos that mesmerized the world. Dark blue-black ink depicting mythical animals twisting across her flesh, executed with stunning precision. These tattoos were not cosmetic. They were symbolic language. The creatures, horned deer with bird beaks, feline predators with curling tails, represented spiritual guardians and ancestral power. They marked her as someone who moved between worlds. Her burial was lavish but restrained. She wore a towering headdress made of felt and wood, transforming her silhouette into something otherworldly. She was buried with a mirror, a cosmetic pouch, and vessels containing herbs. Unlike warriors, she carried no weapons. This absence spoke volumes. Forensic analysis revealed she likely died of breast cancer, complicated by infection. This was not a violent death, but a slow, painful one. Yet she was honored with extraordinary care. Her people believed her role did not end with death. Local Altai legends claim she was a white shaman, a guardian tasked with holding back evil forces beneath the earth. When her tomb was opened, locals protested fiercely. They warned that removing her would bring catastrophe. Soon after, earthquakes struck the region. Floods destroyed villages. Political instability followed. To believers, the message was clear. The Ice Maiden was never meant to leave her resting place. Scientists dismissed the claims as coincidence. But the tension between academic pursuit and indigenous belief became impossible to ignore. Today, her body remains preserved in a museum, while debates rage about repatriation. Is she a scientific specimen or a violated ancestor? The Princess of Ukok is more than a mummy. She is a crossroads between science, spirituality, and ethics. Her frozen gaze asks an uncomfortable question. Who owns the past, and what happens when we disturb it? The tattoos of the Siberian Ice Maidens are among the oldest and most intricate ever discovered. Unlike decorative body art, these markings were placed deliberately, following spiritual logic rather than aesthetic symmetry. Every curve, claw, and horn carried meaning. Infrared imaging revealed tattoos invisible to the naked eye, designs hidden beneath layers of skin. This suggests tattooing was a lifelong ritual, not a single event. The body became a living manuscript, rewritten as one advanced spiritually. The animals depicted were not real creatures, but hybrids, liminal beings existing between realms. Deer with raptor beaks, felines with wings. These were spirit guides, believed to escort souls through death and rebirth. Placement mattered. Shoulders symbolized strength and burden. Arms represented action and will. The tattoos formed a narrative, flowing with the body's movement, activating during ritual, dance, or trance. Among the Ice Maidens, tattoos were more elaborate than those found on male counterparts. This suggests women may have held primary roles in spiritual mediation. Their bodies were sacred maps, not personal canvases. Tattooing itself was likely a sacred act. Pigments were made from soot and minerals. Needles crafted from bone. Pain was part of initiation. Suffering transformed into authority. In a world without writing, the body carried history. Modern cultures often view tattoos as rebellion or identity. For the Ice Maidens, they were obligation and responsibility. Each mark bound the bearer to ancestral spirits and cosmic balance. The frozen preservation of these tattoos allows us to see ancient belief systems with unprecedented clarity. They are messages sent through flesh, meant to survive even death. And 2,000 years later, they still speak. Evidence increasingly suggests the Ice Maidens were shamans, or spiritual intermediaries. Containers found in their tombs held cannabis residue, seeds, and incense. These substances were not recreational. They were tools for altered states of consciousness. Shamanic trance was central to Pazyryk belief. Through rhythm, movement, and inhaled smoke, the shaman crossed into the spirit world to heal, divine, or protect the community. Skeletal analysis supports this role. Some Ice Maidens show spinal compression and joint stress consistent with prolonged ritual movement. Others bear heel fractures, suggesting survival through intense physical trials. Their isolation and burial reinforces a uniqueness. Unlike wives buried with husbands, these women stood alone, singular figures of authority. In death, they continued their duty. The tomb itself became a portal. Objects placed inside were not offerings but instruments, mirrors for soul reflection, horses for spirit travel, tattoos as protection. Shamans were feared and revered. They carried knowledge dangerous in untrained hands. Freezing them in eternal stillness may have been a way to preserve balance, keeping their power intact but contained. The Ice Maidens were not victims of their culture. They were its guardians. And even frozen, their influence endured. To the Pazyryk, death was transformation, not cessation. The care given to Ice Maiden burials reflect meticulous preparation for another existence. The dead were dressed, fed, and equipped for journey. Stomach contents revealed their last meals: meat, grains, herbs, chosen deliberately. These were ritual meals, symbolic nourishment for the crossing. The frozen tomb preserved not only bodies, but intent. Each burial was performance of belief, reinforcing cosmic order. Removing a body disrupted that order. A fear echoed in modern Altai resistance. Death was not feared. Improper death was. The Ice Maidens were anchors between worlds. Their frozen rest stabilized reality. Disturb them, and the balance breaks. Modern archaeology celebrated the Ice Maidens as scientific miracles. DNA analysis revealed genetic diversity linking Europe and East Asia. Medical studies offered insight into ancient disease. But science arrived with arrogance. Local voices were dismissed. Sacred landscapes were treated as data fields. The tension escalated as disasters followed excavations. Correlation does not equal causation, but belief shapes reality. Ignoring spiritual context may have consequences beyond measurement. The Ice Maidens challenge the ethics of archaeology itself. The Ice Maidens force a reevaluation of ancient gender dynamics. They reveal societies where women wielded authority beyond domestic roles. History often erases such figures, but Ice remembers. These women were leaders, healers, and protectors. Their power was earned, not inherited. They were not exceptions, they were proof. Climate change now threatens remaining frozen tombs. As permafrost thaws, organic history decays. Time is running out. Do we excavate or leave them untouched? Preservation may require disturbance or restraint. The Ice Maidens face a second death, this time from warmth. The Siberian Ice Maidens are not just ancient women. They are questions made flesh. What is power? Who guards knowledge? And what price do we pay for uncovering the past? They slept beneath the ice for 2,000 years, perhaps not waiting to be found, but waiting to be remembered correctly, and perhaps to be left alone. If you're drawn to the hidden chapters of history, the stories buried, frozen, or erased, subscribe to the Crit Stories. We uncover the past not just to learn from it, but to question what should remain untouched.